Hi, and welcome to AI for UX. This is the space where UX researchers and product leaders stay current with AI innovations. I'm John Whalen, the founder of Brilliant Experience, and we've got a psychology driven product innovation firm. In each installment, we speak with a founder of one of the latest AI enhanced research tools and dive into both its inspiration and how it might benefit you. And I'm happy to say that today I'm joined by Jason Brand. He's the CEO of Usedge, a tool that helps UX and product teams turn research into structured, shareable insights. And just a quick note, these videos are not product endorsements, and we always pay full price at Brilliant for any technologies we use, and no one's getting paid. It's just for everyone to learn more about technology together. So with that, let's get started. So thank you so much for agreeing to this interview with us. We're delighted to have you here, Jason.
Thanks a lot for having me. It's been a pleasure discussing and happy to deep dive a bit more into all these topics.
Cool. Well, without further ado, let's talk about usage. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about who the target audience is for usage and how it helps them.
Yes, sure. So usage is addressed towards companies that have already like a large UX research knowledge internally, and the product is dedicated basically to UX researchers, designers, but also product owners and product managers, where we see that today are conducting more and more user research.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's basically our audience today.
great. And maybe you can just tell us a little bit about how the product helps them, and maybe a scenario when UX researchers or product teams might use usage.
Yes, sure. So basically today we have a couple of like common scenario that we observe from company to company. And it's basically UX researchers or designers that aim to gain speed into delivering research results. And on the other hand, it's about stakeholders that want to access and activate the research data. And today they have this friction point that appears about, yeah, how can I access the data versus how can my team get up to speed and deliver always better results with user research. And so today we are addressing these
Yeah.
pain points and telling basically how can companies bring more value with user research and how can user researcher bring more value in a more efficient way.
No, it's absolutely a huge pain point for all of us that have done, hundreds, thousands of interviews. And also just, I find that there's so much left on the sort of cutting room floor, as it were, that there are really interesting things that probably happened 3 months ago, a year ago, maybe with a different division that did interesting research. So I really appreciate this kind of tool and benefit. Well, there are some other repository tools or sort of equivalents. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about how usage is a little different and maybe better than other options in the right circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. So what we observed, and I think it's also linked with the evolution of our AI went into the different solutions that are on the market. But basically, um, the big difference we have, I would say, is the structuring aspect that we have. It's basically you have some tools on the market that allows to drop a video, to drop some documents, and so on and so on. And they kind of like build ready to use solutions at the end because they analyze the full content and give you some solutions to use. The difference with us is that on our side, we are aiming to support the user researcher journey into achieving more with user research, which means that conducting studies, building a research repository, having reports, discovering opportunities, and all this in the same platform. And I would say the major difference related to how the AI system was integrated on our side is that we always kept the human touch as a director for the AI. And so our unique value proposition would be that every time we use AI to accelerate processes, to bring more operational efficiency, to manage more life cycle, it's always managed with an agent that we'll discover probably later, but it's an agent that is dedicated and fully contextualized to like help the researcher and not replace it, of course, and to bring like more speed and efficiency instead of taking decision at the spot of the researcher.
Got it. No, and it is interesting to hear the different balances of when tools are designed to have more control for the researcher or the product person, whoever's using it, versus sort of just automating the whole process. Well, and this is actually related to a question I had. So many times when people haven't experienced a tool like yours, they don't really grasp how their research might really change. So how should people think about working with a tool like yours? So how would they work differently once they have it?
Yeah. So what we observe, and it's coming from directly our customers, huh? So people have already, usually they already have a user research process in place. And so the fact that our tool is nearly 100% of the time aligned with their own research process, the integration is quite natural. The difference with, I would say, the way of working is that you need to follow some, I would say, some path within the tool that allows every designer to create consistent results. So this means that when you run a usability test or an explorative interview, for example, the results and the outputs you might get would be consistent across all studies, which means that the value that the researcher is creating while using our product is guaranteed in a sense. And so I would say that the biggest change that people see in the workflow is quite often migrating from a report model to an insight model, or migrating from, I would say, a more exploratory practice to a more usability practice, and so on and so on. And so these changes happen through time, I would say, in a company, and they help the team gaining in maturity and having more confidence in delivering research results that are more adapted to the context, to the objective, and to the business case that they are treating.
Interesting. No, that makes perfect sense, and we've seen it too, where it's less about some sort of PowerPoint or slide deck, and more about sort of bringing the data to life. Do you see? This is just a quick question, sort of off what I was expecting to ask. Do you see more of the product people or people who aren't the traditional researchers using Usedge themselves, or is this more typically just sharing out to those folks?
So we have two different types of companies, I would say. We've got some pretty mature companies that will have some, I would say, internal flows allowing researchers to share the results directly with the right stakeholders. Then we have a bit the exploration company, which is like everybody in the company is trying to, take his own element and try to find his own insights or his own reports that would help and feed the product decision. But what we can see is that nearly all the companies are evolving in a model where, for example, we've got an AI agent that is a RAG system that allows people to ask questions to the repository and get some answers directly from the repository. So we see, but this is also linked with the way
Mm-hmm.
AI is more and more integrated into
Yeah.
how people are using stuff. But we see more and more some people like uh, crafting on their own the data they need to take some product decisions. And we see like designers shifting and researchers shifting towards more like being a researcher and not like feeding only documentation to
Mm-hmm.
stakeholders to take decision. And so it's quite interesting to see the change because now researchers and designers are focusing more on doing the research with like some superpowers thanks to AI agents.
Mm-hmm.
And we see stakeholders like gaining autonomy into asking questions to a repository, getting their answers, and then consolidating all that. And if some data is missing, they can ask the researcher to conduct another study, to run some deep search, and so on. And so it feels more natural, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
in the area we are now with all these AI products popping everywhere, that we see a concrete workflow setting up between, I would say, product owners, product managers that are keen to get some research results to take better decisions.
Yeah. Um, I've just seen exactly the same thing. So it's very consistent with my experience, and it is interesting the transition where I want to know the answer, and now I can log into Usage or the tool they're using,
Yep.
sort of at 3 in the morning, and be able to get their answer right then, as opposed to waiting for the UX researchers to take a look and report back and so on. Well, I know we've talked a lot about usage, so maybe it's time to show a little bit of usage. So maybe I can work on sharing your screen. Maybe you can just set the stage for what we're about to see.
Yep. So what I would like maybe to present is like a concrete use case about like AI agents and how this is helping researchers and designers to gain more operational efficiency. And then maybe if we have a bit of time left, I would like to maybe present how stakeholders interact with such a repository to get some quick answers on what they need to know.
Cool.
So
Yeah, please go
to
ahead. Cool.
see like okay, so here is usage. So just to present quickly how it's built. So we have built a research repository powered by a UX research lab, basically combining studies and a repository at the same time. And so today, what we are aiming to develop is a system that allows user researchers and designers to configure some AI agents. And so basically, AI agents are here to support and to allow companies to achieve more research in less time. So if we take an example, I would take one that is pretty obvious, is the research protocol creation. So for example, you are starting a study and you want to create a research protocol based on an internal document or something that is used to like create a study. And so from there, as you can see, we have a list of agents that are focused on a precise objective. And each of these agents can have some instructions, can follow an AI model that they can be chosen by the user, can get some client instructions, some documentation, context, and so on. And so you really need to see each agent as a super helper that would allow a designer to achieve more. And so if we take a look, so an agent is basically a provider and an AI model. And then you have some original instructions, some client instructions, some documentation, and some personalization settings. So do I want my agent to be creative? Do I want my agent to like consider some choices? Or do I limit the agent to like a few options and so on and so on? And so all this is fully customizable by the user. And what does this do into the scenario of the user researcher? So if we take the example of the study and I want to create a new study, here, for example, I want to do a usability test. So I will select a project, add a study name and a description like this. And then from there, what will be interesting is to start the creation of the protocol. And so from there, you will have two choices because the agent is enabled. You will have two choices. The first one is either you build your research protocol from a document that you have in your company. So, for example, you always have a PowerPoint or something that is traveling through different stakeholders, and you want to pop the document in there to build a research protocol. Or you want to generate your protocol directly with AI following a prompt. From there, I will choose the first option. So I will upload the file like this, and then I will click on Generate Protocol. And from there, the AI agent will start crafting the protocol depending on what your document was logging in. And so here you can see that the AI agent crafted first a section about general experience and then a second section evaluating customer choices. And so this is about gaining operational efficiency. So this is one use case like between all the others. But how we should see that is that every AI agent is evolving in a specific scope. So for example, we just saw the research creation protocol, but you also have the way we extract highlights. Then you have also all about reports generation and all the insight management system. So how we should
Yeah.
see that is that every agent is working towards one of the three pillars, which is lifecycle management, operational efficiency, and conversational agent. And
Wait.
so
Oh, hey,
every
Jason.
agent, yeah, is
Oh,
all
so.
about all this.
Oh, sorry. You please finish your sentence. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But it was just about, yeah, explaining that each agent is working in a specific scope with an advanced context. And this context allows to have super precise answer on specific use cases. And this allows teams to gain in operational efficiency like never before.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting approach, and I have learned enough about like retrieval augmented generation, so this RAG model, that it's like using the data you're giving it, and it does sound like you've got very specific kind of agents or helpers. One thing that I hear from researchers a lot is sort of giving up control is fear, something they may not want to do, or they want to customize things. And I guess I wondered, to what extent can I, as the researcher, like you, we just made a research protocol for doing an interview, it looks like. So logically, I could change that the way I want to, or well, let me, yeah, okay. And the other thing that actually we haven't seen often in research tools is having it be able to think more strategically. So I guess I was wondering, do you tend to give it with some of your instructions, so the researcher's instructions, a little bit of insight into what you're most interested in your research study?
Yep. So there is one key parameter that is there for every organization. And so if we take a look here, we've got some organization settings here, like this, where I can provide all the necessary context to all my agents. And so this comes up with, for example, an organization context. So explaining what is my company doing? What are we aiming to do? Like what is our value? What is our mission? And so this will help agents thinking towards this direction.
Yeah.
We've got all things related with privacy and compliance. This is a huge topic related with AI. And so this, for example, is also something that you can provide for agents to have more transparency and so on. And so after that, you also have some data sources integration. So for example, here you have some continuous data that you can feed to the agent. So it's always aligned. And so our specificity is always to bring the maximum context we can to each agent so it is thinking in a way that it will be adapted to what we are doing in our company. And this is basically what's differentiating us between like global AI, so general AI, and super specific AI models that are trying to solve a pain point that is clearly defined and clearly fed with context elements. So yeah, that's how we
Yeah.
do it.
No, really, really interesting and different. So I guess a natural question I think to think about is, oh, can I create my own agent, or do you continually, are you sort of gradually adding different specific kind of tools to the to usage?
Yep. So about personalized AI agents. So today we are trying to evaluate a bit how the market is evolving. First, the AI agents were only working in the background because like people didn't have the skills to perform some personalization operations on agents. And it's just because like technology is new, we are learning
Yeah.
with it,
Mm,
and people need, to gain knowledge before starting to craft
yeah.
some instructions, for example. But if we take like concrete examples, for example, about or reports deprecation and so on. I can show you a bit how it works. But if we take like this agent, which is about report deprecation, it's about tracking the life cycle of how a report might change through time in terms of trustable. And so if I take, for example, the report here, you can see that here the AI agents are only positioned on the top of the page, and some reports have been downgraded because some elements are not aligned with the trust that was there before. And so if we take a look here and I click on view, you can see that I've got three reports like this that has got a previous status and a new status. And usage is providing the reason of why this report could be downgraded through time. And so from there, the user can then accept or deny depending on the changes, and he can save reports updates. And so this is like another concrete example of how an AI agent is supporting the researcher into building like a repository that is always up to date, self-maintained, but still keeps the human touch into making the final decision. So I
Wow.
would say, yeah, that's how we give I would say the flexibility to the user to have the personalization settings
Hmm.
while keeping the AI logic behind.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, and I apologize if I'm deviated you from your flow. I guess you built a set of questions. What other things did you want to make sure we understand are possible with usage?
So one main thing, and this is mainly like the other scenario we discussed about, is how can stakeholders gain knowledge by asking questions to the repository? And so, for example, you can have a RAG system that is an agent. So here I can ask, for example, what do we know about drivers' opportunities regarding earnings, for example? Something like this. Then I can send that. And in the meantime, while it's scanning the whole stuff, I can show you like how it's working. So the RAG is an agent that is based on an AI model that has some original instructions, some client instructions, and that will crawl around the insight repository, the reports, and the opportunities. And so the big difference is that the RAG is something that is completely transparent across all sections of the tool, where, for example, the research protocol is working in the study scope and not like globally. It can get some data from other studies, for example, from opportunities, but it will be on the human command. And so here, if we take a look, here is the answer. So we have a bit of a typo stuff that has appeared recently, but we will fix it. But basically, from the available documentation, you can see that the opportunities about earnings have been listed as is, and all the elements you see here is all the files that have been used to build the answer. And so this is about how we put some proof behind every decision that we make with AI agents. So, for example, here I can see that all these elements were captured in the file 1 and 3. And so the file 1 and 3 are, for example, reports. Then I can see it captured from an insight, and so on and so on. And so this helps stakeholders to take decision based on concrete elements that are present in the repository that are coming either from studies, either from reports, either from insights. And all this is organized clearly in usage by our business logic. So yeah, that's the second
Yeah.
scenario.
And Jason, would this then take me to, like, I could get to that interview or that report to see more if I was interested?
Yes, definitely. You can click on every where you see the little dark elements here. Normally, you should be able to click on
Right.
it and land where the proof was found. And so it's built in a way to reassure and not say, okay, trust me, I said that. I'm pretty sure it was this. If it's an hallucination, the user will never know. But there, as we provide all the proof necessary to like consolidate the answer, we have gained like a full trust from stakeholders into like taking decision at this stage.
Do you mind taking us back? I'm just really fascinated by your agents. So I saw quite a wide variety here. So I can have highlights to a study or tagging things. What are your clients reporting in terms of like the so we personally have found like amazing time savings in what we're doing, and I just wondered, how are your clients sort of thinking about this differently, like being willing to look at thousands of interviews, or thinking about the speed of turnaround of results and things. What are your clients' experiences?
Yeah. So today, well, we have been evolving a little like the way we show personalization settings to our customers. So before, the agents were working in the background, which means that the user was only getting the result. I can take a concrete example. We have a system here that allows for each study, when you create insights, for example, to generate an insight description based on that. And so, for example, if I go there, we have a recap mode, which is basically the overview of all the studies that the team has been conducting, and I can create some insights. And so there, as you can see, the generate answer here is an AI agent. So I can select an insight and then go there and we generate the answer. So this, for example, has been highlighted as a key feature here to accelerate the way teams are using like usage to deliver more insights. But this feature was like not customizable because we wanted to make sure and we wanted to guarantee to our users that the insights you will generate with usage will be high quality. So if the user starts personalizing all the elements by himself and crafting some prompts that are not adapted to the use case, the results might not be there. So we found a way to, for example, here, if I take a look at the insight description, which is this one that I just showed you, we find a way to have some original instructions and some custom instructions. And like having this possibility allows our customers to be way more flexible, to gain more confidence into what the AI will deliver because it is all contextualized. So we are just like adding on top of like operational efficiency that's been said by our customers, a way for them to have it tailored to their business. And so this is the key to have some even more powerful insights that are just not about global
Yeah.
analysis, but more about specified analysis with high context and so a value delivered that is way better than what we had before.
Yeah, I'm starting to get that sense. And one other question I had here was just about you actually, one of the things that's a little unusual is that you've got your academy. And I just wondered, this is a different way of operating and thinking. And, I teach a class on this kind of thing as well. And just um, what sort of things do people have to learn and sort of think differently about in order to get the most value from things like this?
Yeah. So what we observe on the academy, so first of all, bringing usage and bringing AI agents in the researcher workflow is something that's quite new today, which means that there is, I would say, one process per researcher, what we see today. So allowing the user to work towards the same process is something that is quite hard sometimes because like people
Hmm.
want to do some reports, people want to do some insights, people want to do plenty of stuff, do studies in a different way, monitor some other stuff. And so I would say what we have today, like when implementing usage, is a learning curve that is there that we need to, soften as much as we can. And so the academy is here to support the change of research practice and the adaptation of the research practice towards AI agents. And so the academy is there, for example, to help people to craft better prompts, for example, to help people to consider if an agent is applicable to my business model. Because some companies don't need all the agents. Some companies even don't use some agents sometimes. So we have the freedom to tell each company that if you don't want to use AI because of internal policy, because of restriction, because of whatsoever, it is possible. The business logic doesn't change. And the only thing that you will suffer, I would say, is about like speed decrease that will happen. But the academy is really here to support researchers and designers into learning this new area, I would say, of
Hmm.
research practice, which is like augmented research. It's
Yeah.
about how we deliver even more value than we have today, how we convince stakeholders with more concrete elements. And so this is a way we are working with the academy. It's about really bringing knowledge and confidence for researchers to craft their agents, to use them in a proper way, and to have, yeah, some value delivered in hours and not in weeks like we used to have at some point.
Yeah. Well, and I'm happy for you to show whatever you're comfortable with and stop when the time is right. But I find your tool really interesting, and I guess a couple things that stood out to me were you also mentioned the ability to take in quantitative, like survey data as well. And
Yep.
so I didn't know if you wanted to mention that, and just also the ability to sort of create personas as well. So it's quite sophisticated. So I just wanted to make sure you've got the
Yeah,
breadth.
for sure.
People get a sense of the
No,
breadth. So please go ahead.
the goal here, I would say, with usage is really to be able to combine qualitative and quantitative user research to create some insights that are transversal. And so this is basically what we are achieving with our insight repository. So here, for any insight, you can see that our insight model is based on multiple elements, which can be coming from qualitative or quantitative research. And so here you can see like all the boxes you find here are basically qual, quant, and so on. And so here, how does this work? In the study model, but maybe you saw that earlier, we've got multiple study models, and the quantitative part is there to allow aggregating some data from external providers and use this data into the repository to feed your insights. So if we take a look at what is a quantitative study, so here I can go, for example, there, and I can show you like how it's looking like. So here you can see that we've got, for example, some reviews that are coming from a survey or an app store or whatsoever. And so all this data can be computed into usage to allow sending and spreading these kind of information into insights. And so when I switch back to our recap mode, which is the way to aggregate all the data captured, then I can directly like ship that to different insights and retrieve them in my insight repository. And so with usage, we are really aiming to like develop multiple study models that are like facing what is the market really addressing as needs, because like we don't want to develop some study models that are not used. But these models today cover like 90% of the use case that we get from our customers. So yeah, if there is some study models
Hmm.
that someone wants to integrate because it's key for their business, we might develop it, but today we are developing it accordingly to the user needs. And well, that's the whole purpose of user research, I guess.
Yeah. I'm really glad I asked that question, and you showed just a little bit about that. Is there anything else you want to make sure we share about usage before we switch to talking a little more about yourself?
I would say that usage is a full solution about research operation in general. So there is plenty of stuff to discover. There are plenty elements that people find interesting, some less because it's not adapted to their organization. But today we see that clearly the value we bring to our customers is really about, yeah, how we help them to manage their data lifecycle, how we manage them to help with like the efficiency of designers and researchers, and how we help them also to spread the knowledge and make sure the data is used in some decision from their end. So yeah, I would say that globally, it's a big solution. We have plenty stuff. We even have a
Hmm.
plugin that is there, but there is plenty elements to work with. There is a lot to adapt in companies also, and it's super exciting because we see the changes in the way users are using the tool, I would say, and we see also like how companies are integrating more and more user research in their day-to-day decision making. So yeah, that's uh, that's the
Very,
happy part, I would say.
very cool. Well, thank you so much for showing me that. I really appreciate it, and for our viewers too. Well, I did want to take a step back, and we focused on first on your product usage, but I find it kind of incredible. You take a bet and you work so much on this and pour your heart into this product. What inspired you to create this for this field?
But I would say, so I've been 10 years in the industry now as a user researcher. Well, UX designers migrated to user research and work for large corporates, work for some startups and so on. And I saw like the same problems everywhere. And it was all about how could we make better user research? And I was like, yeah, on the market, there are a bunch of tools that are providing some specific solution for some parts of the journey. And I was like, in the end, I still land with maybe 10 tools to, capture my data, unbox it, then store my insights, build a custom Airtable to do my repository, but then spend hours into maintaining the data and so on. And so at the end, I was just like, let's try and create something that would help, I would say, accelerate my process and help other designers to gain more knowledge about how to do good user research. And so this is how the idea came up. But yeah, this was already like 3 years ago, and at the time there was the first, I would say, boom about AI that showed up. And so this impacted us a lot because like in the excitement of AI and so on, people were like, I can do anything with AI basically. And so today what we can see is there is a bit of a reverted tendency, I would say, where people are more like careful and trying to understand how AI can help without like hoping that it will solve every mystery we have in the discipline of user research. And so I would say that today we are in a very interesting period of like AI impact, and now we have a bit of, I would say, of knowledge of how it can help and how it can support the user research flow. And so this was like from the start built to integrate intelligence in usage, but we didn't see it as so fast because like the AI exploded at some point, and so everybody started to jump on it. And so we kept, I would say, our pace of like keeping it safe to avoid having this black box effect where I can put some stuff and get an answer and I don't know where it's coming from. And so I would say evolving step by step made usage that is today super solid, has a strong foundation, and that delivers results that can actually be used because like we trust in our results. And so that's where it's coming from, basically.
Hmm. Uh, and it's always interesting to hear, what the sort of the person's background and the motivations and energy. Well, is there, you've come a long way from not having a product to all this suite of tools. Is there anything that you're particularly proud of, or that just you're happy your team has accomplished?
So proud of is maybe my team. I'm super proud of having a team that is so into the product and yet today like we are addressing needs of large corporates, we are addressing needs of very large teams like from 20 to 80 designers. And today we are proud that the results we bring today, we've got designers mentioning that this is concretely accelerating their process. So like starting a product is super hard today because like to be honest, we are addressing the worst customer we can imagine, which is designers. Designers have super high expectations and it's a factor. I mean, but
Hmm.
like designers need the tool to work like perfectly every time to have the right design, the right performance, the right stuff because it's our work. And so like addressing designers is has been quite a heavy mission. And today, receiving the feedback that the tool is corresponding to a designer's job, like the designer is feeling comfortable in using Usage, and the designer has some concrete results on personal growth, on how it can help with the day-to-day job, and so on. And we have some users connected 8 hours per day on Usage because they have a lot of work to do in Usage. And the more data you put in Usage, the more your agent will be performant, and so the better results you will get. So as long as the company has understood, and as long as the team has understood that the more regular data you input in Usage, the better the outcome will be. This is where the fun part starts.
Cool. Actually, I do have one question before I go back to thinking to the future. Given you mentioning, the more data you have, the better. Does your tool allow and yes and no are perfectly fine here. I'm just learning. So there are possibilities that are more on the market research side, like social listening data, or there could be just really large scale survey data, and other sources, maybe customer service things. Is that something that's on the radar or possible in usage?
So today we are listening a lot about from our users, I would say. We are not aiming to reproduce every tool in the world. Like this is not our role at all. What we are aiming today is to connect with, I would say, the right tools and see how this can be like integrated in the philosophy of usage, because this is super important. And today, as we saw for the quantitative studies, like we have some ways to integrate and connect some sources about surveys and so on. But what we are aiming for on our end is really to like bring the I would say the best experience for the designer, but also for the end user that is performing, for example, the test, that is performing the survey, and so on. And so we have some discipline, like you mentioned, that would be interesting to integrate in usage at some point. But yeah, as we are evaluating that with our users, if the users are saying, yeah, no, this is a super practical tool, you don't need to reproduce this kind of element because like the user experience already on point and the data we extract is perfect, then we connect it to usage and we use the data to feed insights. And so this is basically like what we are aiming to do. And yeah, that's but again, we are evolving with our users, so we are super curious to yeah, understand how they would like to shape the tool in the future.
Got it. No, very fair. And so I'm Canadian, so I'm going to give a hockey analogy. So, they used to talk about Wayne Gretzky, not skating to where the puck is, but where the puck will be in the future. And you, as a product person, have to sort of anticipate where is the market headed and build towards that. And so I've been really, I don't know, it's been great to hear folks like you and just hearing how do you see sort of the research field evolving over time. And I had a question here for a few years, but I don't think anyone knows that far in advance. But how do you see that evolving, and how do you see your product changing over time as well?
So I would say, but the user research discipline, but I mean it's also linked with designers and
Yeah.
UI designers and all this
Hmm.
kind of profession that are
Right.
completely changing through time, and that is just the way everything is evolving, integrating more AI stuff, integrating more intelligence in the way we work, and like the performance also that we expect from these. And so I would say that in the future, well, again, I don't know, like everything changes from month to month, well, from now. But I would say that from at least a user research perspective, how I see user research is something that will be at some point democratized and supported by intelligence, which means that user researchers have always the finesse, if I can call it, to capture things that AI would never capture, or at least
Hmm.
that won't capture in the next few months or years. And so how I see that is really like two colleagues working together and achieving more because there is a colleague that is super performant into classification task, for example. And this could be one of our AI agents, for example. And so I would say that the fact that we have built a system that allows personalization across agents and having the possibility to, deliver some some precise solution for a specific pain point will mean that, for example, if in 2 years the intelligence model have so evolved that now we can, I don't know, moderate session entirely or something like this and rely on these results to qualify insights, this would mean basically that one of our agents could be a session moderator. And so we can then perform an AI agent and like deliver this agent to session moderation to be able to deliver the feature. But yeah, as we are evolving with the technology and with the market, today it's I would say I won't say unpredictable, but at least we are in a direction where AI will support uh, researchers, designers, product owners to do better and do more research. But what we need to anticipate also is all the things that we don't measure today about like all the privacy aspect, all the elements that are linked with like how AI is managed in an organization. Because today it's new skills that we need to have in these kind of companies. And so yeah, I'm super curious to see how each company will evolve with AI and how this will, I would say, impact some professions, impact the way teams are working together. And yeah, super curious to see where this is going. But we are monitoring it closely. But again,
Mhm.
as it's evolving super fast, I won't be able to estimate where we are even at the end of the year.
Yeah, fair, and thank you for that. So, actually, just for clarity, and I don't want to expose your future plans, but just in today's product, you can do. So I can moderate a study within usage, so like a human to human moderation, and then that it's recorded in the system. But in today's world, you don't have AI moderation, which some tools do right now. And so
Yeah.
just for clarity.
Yeah, definitely. So today the moderation is relying only on human interaction. And we have been performing some tests with AI moderation. But today, like if we are talking, but first, if we are talking about non-English models, the AI moderation is quite complex, I would say.
Hmm.
Plus, you've got expressions, you've got a lot of stuff that today is not understood at all with AI. And with people that, for example, are not tech friendly, it's super complex to handle this because, like, some people might get lost, might not understand, might ask questions that are not in the script, and sometime, AI gets a bit in trouble about, like, yeah, linking back to the protocol and things like this. The thing, however, we are studying is, for example, to like all the follow-up questions and all this kind of stuff that we can have AI working on it. But again, it's a task that requires a lot of testing, a lot of testing with real users also to make sure that we can rely on it. Like our way of thinking today is really having something that is reliable. Like we want a repository where people can feel that the data they get is reliable and they can use it with total confidence. And so today, all this like AI human, end user interaction is really something that we are like exploring, testing. And but yeah, today we don't have 100% confidence about the reliability of this and how it will make it into the repository. So yeah, we are curious, we are testing,
Hmm.
but today we cannot guarantee results to our customers. And as we are addressing some banking, insurance, special companies, yeah, it's super complex to deliver this kind of feature.
Right. Yeah, we've done work with very sophisticated scientists where there's a lot of internal knowledge, assumptions they make, and so on. So having it perform at that level that makes sense to that person can be really tricky. Um,
Yeah.
well, to end, it is a very, very impressive tool. And so if folks want to give this a try, how do you recommend they reach out?
Yep. So today, well, the access to the platform is via a book demo that is available on our website. Why we don't have today a way for users to discover it on their own, it's basically because like the complexity that is behind AI agent today is not fully understood by our target audience, I would say. And so today we take the time with companies to help them set it up in the right way to help them understand how AI agents are working within a repository, because this is quite new, I would say. And the fact that it's not a general AI, so it's not something that will interpret stuff and like create, I would say, a foggy answer in the end, because like there is no sources or stuff like this. And so we are aiming with them to really develop something that will help them on the day to day. We've got our three pillars. We explain why you need to have some life cycle management on data. We explain to them how we can guarantee an operational efficiency and so on. And so all these, we can only perform it today by speaking with the user. And this is where we are best, I would say. It's about keeping the interaction alive and making sure that, well, our user at least feel helped, feel like they have support, and if they need anything to even set up some taxonomies or stuff like this, we are here to help because we want to guarantee that when they sign up for usage, it's something that they have on the long run and that, yeah, they're not here to switch after 1 year because the data they will get is there for, yeah, for a full life cycle. So yeah, that's definitely how we work.
Got it. So yeah, they can reach out for a demo. Well, great.
Yeah,
This is everything. Okay, I've got lots more questions for you, but I have to stop somewhere. It's very impressive.
yeah.
I'm so glad we got this opportunity. So I guess I just want to say thank you, Jason, for sharing usage with us, and I'll go ahead and just sign us out here. So, so that's all for today. Thanks so much for tuning in and keeping up with the latest AI for research. And subscribe and let us know in the comments what else you'd like us to see and ask any questions about usage. And wishing you brilliant insights with AI.